This is your breaking news World War III update. This is late night emergency update. I just want to give everybody a heads up. Yes, indeed, we are going to see a Black Monday scenario likely unfold on Wall Street in the coming hours. Now, futures are down. The Asian markets are crashing. It was so bad that, in fact, they had to flip the circuit breakers in several countries. And the European markets aren't faring much better, down nearly 5%. In futures trading, some of them down up to 7% as of the time of making this video. So it's going to be an absolute bloodbath, and the war drums are beating louder and louder. We have record amounts of flights of military equipment to the Middle East as Benjamin Netanyahu gets the red carpet treatment in the United States. And you know what him and Trump are going to be talking about. They're going to be talking about making a war with Iran. It has nothing to do with tariffs. In fact, these tariffs right now are being used as the scapegoat for this market crash. I can tell you right now that while it is true that that was the pinprick that pricked the hyperinflated bubble that has been developing for years and years in the equities markets that has always been widely overvalued, which is part of the reason I made my prediction 6 weeks ago that it was all going to come crashing down, if you recall. Well, it's not just that. You see, this plunge into the depths of destitution that we are about to experience is largely due to the fact that nations are about to go to war. Before armies cross borders, trade between those countries will cease. That is typically how it goes. If trade can't cross borders, armies will. Do you seriously think, does anyone in their right mind actually believe that Trump's intention is to bring back factories to make Nike shoes, and that is going to boost the American economy in any meaningful fashion, especially when they're saying in the same breath that it's all going to be done by automation? Do you seriously think that's what this is about? This is about war. This is about the Chinese getting rid of their U.S. debt. In fact, they're getting rid of their own debt, which is the only reason why gold is holding the line today. But understand what this is. Tariffs are a fancy way of saying war. Warren Buffett said it as much. He said that tariffs are a declaration of war, okay? So in this case, where we have a very one-sided situation where we issue people promissory notes, i.e. debt, and in exchange, they give us actual cool stuff, which has always been the case with the Chinese and the Vietnamese and everybody else involved, including the Taiwanese, who give us the most advanced chips in the world so we can build out this cyberpunk dystopia. Well, that's all changing now, okay? We've now insisted on building those things here, and it's going to cost us much more. And if it's done by automation, we're not going to benefit from those jobs. The only people who are going to benefit are the primary shareholders and the big corporate oligarchs. So it's all very silly. And the reason why it's silly is because it all boils down to there's a major war coming between China, the United States, Iran, Russia, UK, Europe, all of the key players, and this dog and pony show about tariffs being the single isolating factor that has pricked the bubble is just a scapegoat. The reality is that big nations are about to go to war, and this is the decoupling. This is what it looks like. Today, we are seeing Taiwanese markets go down 10%. And you know what the dead giveaway for this theory was for me? Was that the Taiwanese president came out today and said, we will actually remove any tariffs that Trump wants. We want parity in trade. We will do whatever Trump asks. And still, the Taiwanese stock market plunges 10%. Of course, one could make the argument that it is very intimately tied with the Chinese market as well as it is. However, you would think that that would be some bullish news for investing in Taiwan. It isn't, because right now the Chinese military is encircling Taiwan and they could make their move at any moment. I believe that's what this is really about. This crash that we're seeing, the big money knows that there's big wars coming that are going to be very disruptive to the supply chain on a COVID level, which is why we're seeing a COVID crash. Hong Kong down 9%. Japan down 8.5%. I mean, these numbers are staggering, okay? China down 7.1%, Singapore 7.1%, Australia down 6.4%, South Korea 5%, Germany 5%, UK 4.7%. Right now we have the NASDAQ futures in the USA down 4.43%, France down 4.3%, Philippines, the biggest economies in the world. This collapse is global. The only thing holding the line is gold. Robinhood stock, to get specific with U.S. equities, down 17% in overnight trading. A cataclysmic crash, and there's still a long way down for a lot of these stocks. Palantir down 10%, and that stock is down how much since the beginning of the year? Tesla down another 10%. We could break $200 today. That flaming Cybertruck in front of Trump Towers, tell me that wasn't prescient. We have Nvidia down 10%, Broadcom 10%, AMD 9%, Amazon 6%, Alphabet 6%. The only thing, like I said, holding the line is gold, and that's because the Chinese are buying it. In fact, when the markets, the Asian markets, before they opened and futures trading opened here in the United States, gold actually plunged below 3,000. And this is because there's a lot of selling pressure because hedge funds need liquidity to cover all the big margin calls. And you're going to see that. You're going to see gold go down a little bit more. And that's just because people are trying to cover our losses. But to counteract that, you also have people looking for an economic safe haven. And as soon as the Chinese markets open, gold shot up. Okay, they are scooping up as much of this stuff as they can. And surprisingly, silver also shot up. Despite futures being down, being battered, hammered right now, you're still seeing silver up. Now, last week, silver disproportionately lost compared to equities. It was down nearly 7 to 8% for those two really bearish trading days at the end of the week. Now we're seeing it rise. Now, I'm going to be interviewing a silver expert tomorrow in the physicals market. We had a technicals paper market guy on last week, but this guy is going to specialize more in the physical market. And I think what he's going to say is that largely the industrial bearish news has been factored in because, of course, silver is used for industrial purposes, but also for monetary purposes. And then there's, of course, jewelry. But the industrial bearish news has possibly already been priced in for silver. And what's holding the line right now is the financial play, the people who are buying it as an economic safe haven. And retail is going to look at this retracement in silver as a buying opportunity, and I think they're going to pile in. Okay, and I think a lot of people can't afford gold, especially when you start breaking down gold to its denominations that are more commensurate with the silver denominations. You're looking at much higher premiums. So I think people are going to be moving to silver because, or at least the money that, you know, the small money is going to go into silver. The big money is going to continue to pile into gold. Crypto is surprisingly holding up, only down 3%, although XRP is getting fleeced, as well as Ethereum. So the Chinese are also selling their 10-year government bonds, and they're exchanging that for gold as well. So everybody is moving to gold. The Japanese had to flip the circuit breakers today because the stock market crash went below 7%. I believe that's where their circuit breakers are set. That's basically just a thing that temporarily suspends trading on the markets to try to mitigate the panic a little bit and the hysteria. There's a circuit breaker that could get flipped tomorrow. If we're down 4.5% in futures trading, I would not be surprised if we don't see that circuit breaker get flipped tomorrow as well. Taiwan also had to trigger their circuit breaker in order to try to curtail a very, very steep crash. Brokerage firms are also sending out warnings that this could indeed happen tomorrow, as we're looking at 15% wiped out in just the last 3 days. Now, people are comparing this to 1987, and well, it's not 22% in one day, but the 1987 crash, as far as I know, it was a relatively short-lived ordeal, like in the grand scheme of things. You know, the markets bounced back quicker than they did after the dot-com bubble and things of that nature. And you didn't have as much debt then. You arguably, it was more of a glitch. It wasn't really indicative of major geopolitical turmoil that was going on at the time. I can't remember the exact cause of the 1987 crash, but it was something ado with FUD and algorithmic hysteria. It was less ado with the fundamentals as it is right now. This market is crazy, wildly overvalued in a way that it never was in 1987. We have way more debt. We have way more war, way more unprecedented everything. Fill in the blank. Now, Secretary Bessent is saying, don't worry, the top 10% of Americans own 88% of equity, so they're going to be the ones that take the hit. But what he doesn't understand, because he's so out of touch with the average person, is that the next 40% of people who own stocks only own 12% of the market. Now, only 12% of the market, that's still billions of dollars. That's all of the middle classes' retirement savings plans. And, you know, you got all the people coming out tonight and saying, hey, don't worry, the markets always come back. And, you know, you'll always get your money back. The stock market always goes up. Well, it didn't really go up that much from the year 2000 until, 2012? So yeah, eventually it's going to catch up, but it could be 10 years, okay? So, and in that 10 years, how much inflation are you going to incur? And because all those dollars are no longer going to be shipped overseas to buy stuff, they're going to be trapped in our system here. So all of those banknotes are going to be competing for a small and smaller amount of goods and services, meaning that the price of everything is going to go up. So you're going to be seeing the weirdest kind of stagflation market crash. It's going to be ugly, immiserating, and people are going to riot. People are already starting to riot, but the real, we are the 99%, the big one is coming soon. And people are saying Trump is doing this on purpose and yada, yada, yada. This is something that transcends Trump. This is about World War III. You're not going